Hi guys, I'm Johnny from the PE Tutor. Thanks for taking your time to watch today's mini lesson. It's actually from a series that we've just finished putting together for all of our level 2 BTEC sports students. So if you are studying for that Unit 1 exam, or you're a teacher and you have your own students preparing for that exam, then please do subscribe to this channel, and you can use all of our mini lessons uploaded here on YouTube, or click on the link below. We've actually just finished putting together a free flashcard pack for all students and teachers alike to use to really help you prepare for that exam. Anyway, hope you enjoy the lesson and I'll see you again soon. So today we're going to look at continuous training. This method of training takes place at a low to moderate level of intensity. If we think back to training zones, that means that the performer is working between their 60 and 85% of their maximum level of intensity. In order to consider continuous training, it must take place for a minimum of 30 minutes. To complete training of this duration allows us to target the two main components of fitness: muscular endurance and aerobic endurance. Muscular endurance is the ability to contract a muscle against low resistance multiple times without undue fatigue. So by completing 30 minutes of movement, be it swimming, running, cycling, we are going to contract a muscle over and over again against our body weight and not a lot else, thus developing muscular endurance. Aerobic endurance is our ability to take oxygen in, to transport it around the body and then utilise it inside the working muscles. The better our aerobic endurance is, the longer we can go without fatigue. As our aerobic endurance improves, we can also work at higher and higher intensities as well as for longer durations of time. Some examples of activities that we could use when continuous training might be running, swimming, cycling. Any repetitive skill that the performer is in complete control of, we could actually use to complete continuous training. What wouldn't work for continuous training, however, would be a game situation or a competitive performance. This is because there's far too many variables that are dictating the intensity at which the performer is working. So if we took a footballer, if they went out for a jog for 30 minutes, that's mimicking the sporting actions of running around the football pitch. However, if they were to just play a game and consider that to be continuous training, sometimes they might be walking, sometimes they might be sprinting, sometimes they might be competing in the air, which is using explosive strength as opposed to muscular endurance. It's important that when continuous training, that the intensity is kept between a very small margin or very small threshold. So it could mean that a performer needs to be wearing a heart rate monitor around their wrist or around their chest, or that they're regularly stopping for 10-15 seconds, recording their heart rate to make sure that they're in the zone that they need or want to be. This is because if a performer deviates and goes outside of their training zone, they're now targeting different components of fitness, such as power if we go above that 85% threshold, or we go into rest and recovery mode or fat utilising mode if we drop below 60% of our training intensity. With continuous training, there are a number of benefits, but there are also some drawbacks. Benefit number one, we don't require much, if any, specialist equipment. A performer could quite easily go out for a jog, which requires nothing more than appropriate running kit and trainers. Should a performer want to complete a long distance cycle or go for a swim, they might need access to a bike or a swimming pool, but they could always revert to going for a run if they haven't got those items. Benefit number two is that continuous training doesn't require huge amounts of planning. A coach or performer needs to work out their maximum heart rate, so 220 minus the performer's age, to then be able to determine what their 60 and 85% training threshold is. After that, it's just a case of completing the activity and monitoring the performer's work intensity during the training session. A third benefit is that we can make continuous training sport specific. If a performer rows, cycles, swims or runs at any point during their competitive situation, then we can tailor continuous training to suit them. As long as the movement action during continuous training is repetitive and the performer stays in control of their intensity and there's no external variables influencing how hard or how little they're working, then we can tailor it to whatever sport the performer needs it to be. And a fourth benefit is that it's nice and easy to track. We could record the speed a distance was covered or a distance covered in a certain amount of time. So long as the performer is kept within their training threshold of 60 to 85%, we can constantly try to push that performer to cover greater distances at that same intensity, or cover a known distance in a quicker and quicker time, all while staying between that 60 and 85 threshold. What a performer shouldn't do, however, is work above that 85% threshold in order to try and extend that distance or run at a faster time, because they're no longer developing their aerobic endurance. So, a very practical method of training, however there are a couple of drawbacks. The first one being, it is a very repetitive method of training. This brings with it two main concerns. One, lack of motivation or boredom, and two, repetitive strain injuries. Yes, we're dealing with low intensities, but joints will be going through movement actions over and over again for a long period of time, and this could cause wear and tear on the joints. For a swimmer, this might be in their shoulders. In a runner, this could be in their knees. In the case of running, constant stress or impact going up through the bones could cause shin splints. This is a painful condition in a performer's legs and could rule them out from any form of training for a number of weeks as they wait for them to heal. A final drawback is that continuous training is limited in the components of fitness that it can develop. Yes, it's fantastic for aerobic endurance, brilliant for muscular endurance, but what if the performer needs strength, power, flexibility in their chosen sport? Continuous training doesn't deliver in these areas. To summarise continuous training, it's a method of training that's performed between low and moderate levels of intensity, or between a performer's 60 and 85% training zone. The main components of fitness that it targets is aerobic endurance and muscular endurance. It's ideally suited to repetitive movement actions that can be completed for 30 minutes or more, such as running, swimming, cycling or rowing. Care must be taken though that the performer stays in control of the movement actions, because any variation in work intensity could alter the method of training and actually move it outside of continuous training parameters. Some benefits are that it doesn't require any specialist equipment, limited planning has to be completed beforehand to make it effective, and it's very easy to track progress because we can record distances covered or speeds travelled at during the continuous training session. There are some drawbacks, however, one being increased risk of injury, especially repetitive strain injuries, because we are using joints over and over again in the same movement action, which could cause wear and tear on the muscles, tendons or ligaments. Also, continuous training could be quite boring, or the performer's motivation might drop because there's little variation in continuous training. And finally, continuous training is great for developing aerobic and muscular endurance. However, strength, power, flexibility, reaction time, all of these other components of fitness aren't really addressed during this method of training. So that's continuous training. I hope you found that mini lesson useful. If you did, then feel free to hit subscribe and you can stay updated with all the videos and content that the PE Tutor is going to be bringing you, and I hope to see you again soon.